like the Los Angeles Mafia family was working on, and the mob decided to eliminate both Mark and Donna. A spinning, tumbling car crash down a steep canyon followed. Mark was thrown clear, but Donna, trapped inside the twisted steel, was burned to death, and Mark couldn't help her. Mark, Professor Haskins, and David Red Eagle formed a crime-fighting trio and swore undying vengeance against the mafia and every other type of crime. They would battle evil, corruption, murder, arson, graft, white-collar crime, everywhere. Mark's first fight was with the mafia in Los Angeles, where he wiped out a huge heroin ring and scooped up hundreds of thousands of dollars from the criminals to stock the crime-fighting treasury. Mark had been in the battle against crime ever since. This was his 22nd gambit. He knew he could not live forever, just as he'd seen dozens of his friends in Nam go down to bullet, bomb, and even poisoned bamboo. He knew that someday he would be a fraction of a second too slow, or in the wrong place at the wrong time, and his own private war against crime would be over. But until that time, he would continue to take on all comers, keep seeking out the enemy who trampled on the little people of the world, and with deadly efficiency he would destroy the evil and push the scales a little further toward justice. Now, in the stronghold, Mark was trying to relax. He had been in the depths of the old borax mine in the Cheyenne Sweat Lodge. Mark had finished the rigorous physical training courses David Red Eagle put him through every time he had a few spare days at the stronghold. He won no lazy vacations here. Now his body was hard and supple, recovered from his last tangle with the supergun merchants. He was ready for a new project, a new quest. But no one problem had surfaced that attracted his attention enough to send him on the way. Mark stared out the small slit windows of the stronghold's tower room and realized that after a week here at home with David Red Eagle, he was thinking more and more like a Cheyenne. It was refreshing. He knew that over the past few years he had become more sympathetic to Indian causes because he was Indian. That was only natural. Perhaps as a newly discovered Indian, he was like a religious convert, taking his newfound role too seriously. All his life he had thought of himself as an Anglo, a gringo, and that was a lot of experience to temper with his new Indian thinking. He hoped to be able to combine the two worlds. In fact, he thought that was the only realistic approach an Indian could take in modern America. Mark turned the FM tuner to a news station and caught the evening report. His attention picked up as 4 small bells rang far away in a studio. In a late-breaking story, we have word from Senator Harland Harrington, Republican from Oregon, that he will not, I repeat, will not be a candidate for re-election this November. Senator Harrington, as you may remember, was involved in a scandal 2 months ago when one of his Washington clerk typists, Arlene accused him of keeping her on the public payroll at $17,000 a year solely to provide sexual favors for the senator, visiting dignitaries, and anyone else with whom the senator wished to gain favor. The wrath of the conservative Oregonians evidently has risen, and Senator Harrington will not run for re-election. Mark looked at the speaker for a moment, noted the announcement, and saw David Red Eagle appear in the doorway, signaling that dinner was ready. As soon as Mark sat down at the table, he glanced up at the old Indian. There was the smallest lifting of the corners of his mouth in what passed for a broad David Red Eagle smile. On Mark's plate lay an inch-thick steak, seared on both sides, but blood-red all the way through. Perhaps the Ancient One knew something Mark didn't. The thick, half-raw steak was usually the sign that Mark would be moving into action again very soon. Chapter 1. Tit for Tat. The Hollywood press corps is a callous group, accustomed to almost anything, ready for any publicity stunt, not surprised by naked chimps, eager young